Kenya, Kenya, so many kinds of animals there. Kenya, Kenya, you cannot see them elsewhere. Kenya, Kenya, in the southern half of Africa, you know Kenya, Kenya, that's where you should go.
Responses to that, and one was a report. The others, one challenge or criticism was faced was exhibited in a report, and the other two were researched by researchers. You know that researchers in this country, they never sleep. They're always there to make sure that they find something negative of something. Yeah, even if it's good, no matter how good, you see that nothing lacks a negative.
Correct.
We say that. So we start with Owino. Owino is a researcher in 1997.
Yes.
So Owino went into a research and came up with a shortcoming or a challenge or a critique of the 7423 education system.
Yes.
What did he say? That according to this Owino, the 7423 system of education lacked the capacity and flexibility to respond to the changing aspirations of individual Kenyans, the changing aspirations of individual Kenyans, and the labor market needs in terms of new skills, new technology, and attitudes. Now, looking at that, at this shortcoming of this education, that the education lacked that capacity and flexibility to respond to the changing. Remember that the world has been going under changes, and it's still going through. For example, remember in the traditions we did not have technology, but as time went by, technology was introduced, and it has picked up more rapid than anything else, because you pass everywhere, you have the internet, the phones, the what, everything. We heard that those days information was relayed. You could just walk to deliver a message, or maybe light a fire, that smoke could be seen, or hit the drums. Nowadays, just a phone call. Phone call, a text message, on radio, on television, and all that. So technology was not yet captured in the system. And this is where the research came in and said that it lacked the capacity and flexibility to respond to the changing aspirations of Kenyans. Yes, because if I've not seen something that will convince me that it's good.
Yes.
For example, there are those people who could not use a phone because they believed that maybe that phone was somehow linked to some darkness.
Yes, yes.
Like, I remember one person asking me one time, how can I be here and talk to somebody in Nairobi? How? If it's not a witchcraft and all that. So the exposure, the earlier they are exposed to those things, the better. That's why nowadays children have laptops, they have iPads and all that in there. They have been purchased for by their parents just to prepare them to enter into the changing world with different needs and compete with others adequately. So the skills, the new technology and attitude towards work. So it was not, the education was not very much concerned with after schooling, what will you do? Yeah, it was just a matter of we teach, we finish, and it's done. So we do not care about what you go to do. Yeah. How you will do it and where. So that's where that critic came in. Another research was conducted by Simiyu in 2001, and Simiyu have already talked about him. So Simiyu came up with findings criticizing the 7423 policy in two major areas. And number one, he said that the 7423 policy was one, being too academic and therefore not suitable for direct employment. It's just like a person who do not have an alternative.
Yes. Yes.
What's your plan? Plan A. If plan A fails, it's done.
Yes.
Yeah. So there was no alternative. That's what he says, that it did not have any. It was just too academic. That if I fail in academics, my life is finished. I cannot do any other thing. So I just go home, get married, or marry, and all that. It did not have an option, an alternative. Then number 2, he says that the policy encouraged elitists. Who is an elitist? An elitist is someone who believes in rule by an elite group.
Yes.
Sometimes at homes, in our homes, we are having the father as the head, and whatever he says is final. That's being an elitist. So he never asked the opinion of the wife, the opinion even of the firstborn. No. So that is the academic. That's the policy that was being criticized. That it was being elitist. So that person who believes in rule by an elite group. You've heard of the elite forces.
Yes.
So a force is just a force. You will never compromise. That is it. So that one promoted individualistic attitude. Individual. You think about yourself,
Yes.
not any other person. And that one is not how African culture is. So that is what called for that maybe reforms and all that. Then the third critic was now from a report, a direct report that was conducted by Gashazi in 1976. Now, the commission raised the issue of unemployment in relation to the 7423 policy. Unemployment. This one still is linked to the first, that and there are even SMEU that the policy was being too academic.
Yes.
So after you are done with education, what next? If you have not succeeded, what next? Do you sit at home, or do you look for something to do? And if you look for that something to do, have you been equipped? So that was the essence. So as a result, there was increased enormous school dropout. Because if you see somebody has gone through levels of education to the end, then he comes back and sits in the village. So you as a person who is also struggling to go there, will you continue? Because you have already been demotivated. If he has gone there, no employment, what about me?
By the way.
So you look at him and say, no, let me just drop out and do something else, something constructive with my life.
Yes.
Now, so this is what led to this 742 education being called for a reform again. So it called for another reform because of the shortcomings.
Yes.
So we want now to cater for individual needs of every person, of every Kenyan. What do? We now go into another reform. Yes.
Okay. That's fine. That's very fine. Now, okay, having had an in-depth discussion on the colonial era education and the 7423 education system, we now would like to switch to a system that everybody born after 1985 has gone through. The 844 system of education. The 844 system of education. Can you now tell what led to the introduction of the 844 system of education?
Okay. Due to the critics that the 7423 system faced, they say that it called for another reform. So the president's working party, the president again formed another working party that went into to probe into the system so that they can see what suits the learners of Kenya and that can expose them to the world of work when they are done with that. So we say that now the 844 system of education, this one was known as the KBE, knowledge-based education. It was majorly on knowledge, such that in a class, you were only required to master the concept for the sake of examinations, because we see that the system tested an individual's success through exams. So you do an exam and you are rated from there. Nothing else, nothing like a competency or what. You have passed the exam, you are ready to go. You have failed the exam, you are a failure. So the knowledge base, that is the education that took place from 1985 up to 2017. So this education has been present for 32 years. Most of us has gone through that system. So you see that it was introduced in 1985 following the McKay report of 1922. So there is a certain report again that was set by the President Working Party that was led by McKay, and it gave a report that transformed the education from 7623 to 844, the knowledge base. And I think there were some criteria that were fulfilled before the implementation of the report. So what led to that 844 system of education? It's also based on research by King and MC Graff. That is the research findings of the two researchers were based on McKay's report. So they searched, or they researched based on the report that was given by McKay in 1992. And their findings based on McKay report, the 844 policy arose out of the concerns that a basic academic education might lack the necessary content to promote widespread sustainable development or employment or self-employment. So we say that the education, the 844 policy arose out of the concern that a basic education is the education, the first one that we go through, the primary education. You can see that in the 7423, the years in primary school were short. They were short. They were 7 years. And according to various arguments, that period was very short for a person to conceptualize or rather even do some technical subjects that could enable him or her fit in the world of work, even when the academic is cut. You know, sometimes circumstances can just force you to cut your education. So after that one happens, what happens then? You should have a basic concept of what you should do, just to make sure that you are kept moving. Okay, so the 844 policy therefore emanated from the assumption or the belief that it will equip pupils with skills which are employable. Skills which are employable. That's when we had technical subjects being introduced. You look at we've gone through the 844. There was agriculture, yes, and there was business studies. So it was to equip that person who believes that I will not go beyond Form 4. Yes. The ability to go back and say, I learned this concept in agriculture, so I can be a farmer. I've gone through balancing of sheets and whatever, and making good choices in business. I can set up my business here because I've had that goal. So that's where 844 was seen as it will have a stronghold in education because of the technical subjects that were introduced. Also, this is the time that history and geography came in.
Yes.
Yeah, just to see, just to know what happened in the past. How are we here? You see, if you go back to history, it will tell you how there was why Africa was colonized, how it all went, then what happened, and why are we free by now. So all that is history. So they wanted to explain it to the generation to come.
Yes.
Geography, formation of the earth.
Yes.
So at least they have the basic concept. But the technical ones were the ones that were essential. So according to this research, the 844 school dropouts at all levels would either secure employment in informal sectors or employ themselves. So they believe in that one, that with introduction of technical subjects, there would be beneficial school dropouts. You drop out of school and you can do something that's beneficial to you. Unlike the previous system that you leave school and you don't have any concept, you don't have any skill, all that. So in 1990, Sifuna gave some of the concrete reasons that led to the implementation of 844. So this one now is Sifuna in 1990 did another research, and what led to the implementation of that education system. He stated them that as number one, there was the International Labour Organization Mission Report, which was titled Employment, Income and Equality. So you look at labor organization. Labor is to do with work. So the International Labour Organization Mission. So it was to probe into if a person is employed, is he receiving what he deserves to receive? Yes, labor. If a person decides to start his or her own business, is he benefiting from it efficiently the way he is supposed to? Then we had the strategy for increasing productive employment in 1972. The strategy is just a method. Yeah. So such that if we say that someone has started a business, how are we ensuring, or how are we giving a helping hand to ensure that this individual benefits as he set his goals? Then we had the recommendation of the National Committee on Educational Objectives and Policies. That was from 1975. So the educational objectives, and we have the policies. The policy is that one which governs education. Any education is governed by a policy, and any education must fulfill the policy that it is people will benefit from it free, not just doing something that is not beneficial, just like doing a business that you are not getting any profit. So the education that was to be set there was to make sure that there is benefit. So you invest and deserve benefit. Just like in business, you invest and you require that profit. You cannot invest in something that is not profitable. Then the 1996 Conference on Education. This one was held in Kericho, and it stressed the need for integrating rural development. Rural development, the development has been majorly, they are being conducted majorly in cities, in urban settings. But you look at the rural areas, they're still very much behind. So that policy, that conference on education, so the necessity of integrating development in rural areas, for example, like power. You see, power is a basic, is a need also. Yes. Because there are things that learners need to do using computers, using those laptops and all those. And you find that many rural areas are not electrified. So they are still behind in terms of electrification and all that. So the policy enforced that. So we say that with the above responses, from various researchers and the reports that were set, the above recommendations and suggestions of the Ministry of Education was changed to the Ministry of Basic Education. So they managed to change the name of from ministry to just basically Ministry of Education. But now they come and say no, because we need some basics in these people, let us now change the ministry from Ministry of Education to Ministry of Basic Education. Basic Education is the starting years of schooling, basically. That's the primary level. And that's where the name came in, a Ministry of Basic Education, from the Ministry of Education, just like that. Yeah. You say that education came with an introductory of 8-year basic education system. 8 years. The previous education had 7 in primary.
Yes.
So this one was added plus 1 year to make it 8 years, because they thought that that period was too short.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Now we are moving on well. We are moving on very well. So I think I have our next question. I think I have our next question. What was the ratio?
So many kinds of animals there. Kenya, Kenya. You cannot see them elsewhere. Kenya, Kenya. In the southern half of Africa, you know Kenya, Kenya. That's where you should go.